Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing The Lives They Left Behind, Suitcases from a State Hospital Attic by Darby, Penney, and Peter Stastny. I have a lot of notes, so I had a lot of thoughts on this. So here we go. The book is about Willard Psychiatric Center, which closed in 1995 after 126 years of operations. Hundreds of patients' suitcases fill the attic, and if they had not been found, their lives would be lost to history. This book tells of the contents of 10 of the suitcases and the lives of their owners while they were in psychiatric care. And there is actually a website that goes along with the book called suitcaseexhibit.org. You can see it and check out some of the frequently asked questions, get more of an idea of what's going on. I believe it used to be a traveling exhibit, and it no longer is. So definitely, if you're interested in this, definitely read the book. A lot of quotes, so bear with me. Quote: when unpaid patient labor was finally outlawed in New York in 1973, after more than a century of exploitation, this became a major factor in the exodus of patients from state hospitals that became known as deinstitutionalization. Blah, blah, blah. Without free labor, these huge institutions were simply unworkable. No words. Just no words. So you're going to put these people that have problems, to work as opposed to trying to actually help them. These were actually, the psychiatric hospitals actually was started kind of with a new movement by the Quakers. They thought if you could get some people and put them in a large facility and treat them well, house them, feed them, maybe give them, a little something to do where they could kind of work together and kind of be familial and get used to things, it might make them better, and it ended up doing so. However, people came along and laws were passed that since these types of institutions created by the Quakers were doing so well, why don't we make more of them? Well, in theory, that thought was good. However, what ended up happening was many people went to the mental institutions, not just people who had mental problems. It was people who were old, people who were poor, people who had dementia, who had physical handicaps. If society didn't want to deal with you, they just dumped you in a mental institution. And because of that, the mental institutions became overwhelmed, and it's just been a downward slide since then. That was my side note. Quote: the menopause undoubtedly has some influence at the present time. That is a Yes, menopause will, change you because your body is changing. But your body changes when you're pregnant too. Your body changes when you're in puberty. Your body always is changing. Your hormones are always fluctuating. Just because somebody's acting different than you're used to doesn't mean, oh, well, it's menopause, it's a woman, blah, blah. I'd have been in so much trouble if I had been born in another decade and another time period. I'd have been locked the bleep up. Quote: madness and folklore are closely linked. A man losing his mind might offer explanations that are totally outside common human experience. Food is often subject to fears and spiritual beliefs. Many people feel poisoned when the sexual juices back up. Certainly, the admitting psychiatrist in Kings County Hospital emergency room did not share such low culture beliefs. It was much easier for him to rank these tales among the symptoms of mental illness. The term paranoid schizophrenia was easily pronounced. Everything was seemingly explained by this diagnosis, even though the patient had not been to a psychiatrist in years. He had been working intermittently and had never been hospitalized despite his medical discharge from the Army, suggesting that his troubles may have been with him for quite some time. So if they were with him for quite some time, he was, off and on doing okay. But when they get put into these places, your mental state is fragile. And you see everybody else around you doing this, and sometimes, you get their vibes and you just go down too. You just kind of can't help it, Sorry. His ideas of reference, the chip plate indicating danger, bizarre delusions, all the good is being sucked up inside of him, paranoia, thinking people want to kill him, disordered thoughts, jumping from one subject to another within a sentence without a clear logical connection would fit into the vast concept of schizophrenia, and was indeed taken as such by the admitting physicians. Dude could have just had PTSD, and not just from being in the Army. If crap happened to him earlier in life, he could have had PTSD from that too. It's not just if you're in the military. It's any kind of trauma. People are different, react to things differently, hold things differently, extrapolate things differently. So you can get PTSD. I have it. So, quote, she also wrote to friends and acquaintances begging their help to get back to Manhattan. Some responded with admonitions to follow the doctor's orders. That is so relatable. Nobody wants to help others. They don't want to get out of their comfort zone to help other people if somebody else is not doing well, because that person's like, ooh, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't think I want to do that. Or it might be catching. It ain't catching. You're being an asshole is catching. Kurt. A steady flow of patients was sent to Willard from overcrowded downstate facilities. People came on buses carrying 25 or more, usually accompanied by a doctor, a nurse, and several attendants. They were often shackled during their trip, which took the better part of a day. People were not given notice of their impending transfer, nor any explanation. They were simply loaded onto the bus and driven away. Witnesses reported the bewilderment of these urban people who stepped off the bus and found themselves in a massive institution in the middle of nowhere. Realizing this, some of them decided to run, but there was nowhere for them to go. The entire area was inhabited by Willard staff. What the fucking fuck? Just repeating some of these quotes is pissing me off. Fucking people. Quote. Woo. My feet was hurting, sorry. Since patient was transferred here from Kings Park State Hospital, at first she was quiet and cooperative, causing no disturbance whatsoever, but was markedly seclusive, irritable, and aloof, showing very little initiative. Within the past few weeks, however, she has shown decided assaultive tendencies toward other patients. Because of dangerous tendencies, she is today transferred to Ward 5. Ward 5 was one of the feared back wards for patients who were considered most troublesome. These wards had a reputation for neglect, filth, and violence. The way she was acting, hell, I feel that way most days. I just have no words right now. I do have words, but there's so many that if I try to say them, I think my head would explode. I mean, that would, you know, get a lot of views, but I ain't here for the views. I'm here to spread a message. Yeah. Quote. The patient is usually quiet. She spends all her time sitting on a chair, does not mingle with the other patients. Well, God forbid. Whenever spoken to, she at once becomes irritable and suspicious and demands in a very aggressive manner her release. I'd be the same way. The fuck? Nobody wants to be in that shit. But yet you expect them to act. Quote. Her ideas of grandeur appear to compensate for her inner weakness. That was written down by a doctor about one of her patients. Excuse me? We almost at the end, thank God. Correct. And this was actually quoted from a former patient that had gotten out at the very end. He was hospitalized when he was young, and like in mid to late teens, and got out early to mid 20s, so he wasn't in there long, but still, this is what he said. Nobody cares about anybody. None of these programs here are at all beneficial or helpful. They're designed to keep a patient hospitalized so they can learn how to function within the facility. They don't orientate you into the community. This is supposed to be a temporary holding spot until you're ready to go back in the community, but yet, over half the population has been here 5 or more years. That is something that needs to change. It's inhumane to take a person who has a breakdown, bring him in, put him on medication, and strip him of his dignity and hope and his self-respect for the rest of his life. Testify. Many cases like that in here, being trapped in a system with no way out. Testify. I'm not going to say anything else because I'm going to get myself riled up. It was a good book. It was a good book. I give it a 5 out of 5. It's hard. It's pissifying. But it's still a great book. 5 out of 5. Read it. Educate yourself. Don't be a jackass to people. On another note, the next book I'll be reading is called Doll Baby by Laura Lane McNeil. I think it's going to be a good one. Sorry for my rants. Not really. I'm not sorry. I rant if I want to rant. And you can too. Yeah. See you later, man. Bye.